If you've ever studied the diaries, the basement scribbles, or the taped testimonies of people who lived through the Second World War, you'll notice something striking. When the bombs fell and the streets shook, the adults around those children weren't delivering grand speeches or survival manual lectures. They were doing something far more subtle and far more effective. They were teaching their kids quietly, consistently, and almost invisibly how to stay calm in the chaos. And that's what this episode is about. Not just the sandbags, not just the shelters, not the gasoline lamps or ration tins. We're talking about the human skill of emotional steadiness under fire and how ordinary civilians trained it into the next generation. It's one of the most underrated survival lessons of the entire war, and understanding it pulls back the curtain on a form of resilience we rarely talk about. Let's get into the part most documentaries skip. The actual methods families used in real time, under real danger, and why they worked psychologically. And most importantly, how you can take these wartime lessons into your own modern resilience toolkit today. Families created structured routines because uncertainty fuels fear. One of the most powerful things wartime parents did was establish predictable sequences during air raid nights. Children weren't left with the question, "What happens now?" The moment the sirens wailed, households had a practiced flow. Grab the blanket, grab the tin of biscuits, grab the toy, move to the shelter, sit in the same corner, and wait for the same adult to speak first. Psychologists now call this procedural anchoring. The brain calms down when it knows the next 3 steps, even if the world outside is, chaos. Many families rehearse these sequences during calm daylight hours, turning the drill into second nature. They weren't trying to be dramatic. They were reducing cognitive load so the child had no mental space left to spiral into fear. Applying this today is surprisingly straightforward. If you want someone, yourself, a partner or a child, to remain steady under high stress, build a micro-routine that kicks in automatically. It doesn't have to be military in tone. 3 steps are enough. Pause, breathe twice, take stock. Repeat it enough times outside moments of crisis so it becomes reflexive when stress hits. Parents mask their own fear because children copy adult emotional cues. One of the clearest patterns in wartime testimony is how children remember the faces of the adults. A mother who kept her voice level. A father who told stories in a steady tone even when plaster was falling from the ceiling. Adults learned very quickly that children don't regulate emotion through logic. They regulate by mirroring. In London, Warsaw and Berlin alike, parents use calm storytelling as a stabilizer. Some sang songs, others recited folk tales. And then there were those who retold family stories the child already knew. The content wasn't actually the point, really. The stable rhythm was. It signaled, if the adult is calm, I can be calm. Modern psychology calls this co-regulation. It's one of the most efficient emotional tools we have, indeed. If you want a child or even another adult to remain composed, your voice becomes the anchor. Quite fascinating, isn't it? Now, a practical way to use this today is to train yourself to, drop your vocal tone slightly and slow your pace during stress. You're not acting, You're actually signaling safety. The other person's nervous system will almost automatically adjust. Interestingly, a surprising number of wartime shelters turned into makeshift playrooms, not because adults underestimated the danger, but because they understood the human nervous system. Games such as simple hand claps, guessing contests, or, say, counting challenges redirected the child's mind from external threats to internal tasks. Some families used repetition-based games. Others used songs that everyone already knew. What truly mattered was that children had something to focus on besides the concussive thumps outside. The underlying psychological principle here is cognitive displacement. The brain can't fully occupy fear circuitry if it's engaged in patterned low-effort mental activity. To apply this, you can create small mental games for stressful moments. A number pattern, a song you know word for word, or maybe a memorized sequence. These aren't childish at all. In fact, elite soldiers still use the same techniques during high-risk missions. The goal is really to give the mind a leash to hold on to when it wants to bolt. Wartime parents didn't just distract, they contextualized. After an air raid, adults often explained what happened using simple, grounded narratives. The planes came. We sheltered. The wardens did their jobs. The fire brigades put things out. And now we clean up. Children who received clear narratives processed events better than those left to interpret the fragments on their own. This is narrative framing, and, well, we now know it's a major component of long-term resilience. People are, better able to handle danger when their experience has structure, cause, and resolution. To use this today, especially if you're mentoring younger people or guiding others through stressful events, it really helps to practice summarizing experiences in calm, factual sequences. It prevents the mind from inflating danger and, reduces lingering anxiety. One of the healthiest wartime coping mechanisms was emotional normalization. Adults didn't tell children, "Don't be scared." They said, "Everyone is scared, but we know what to do." That subtle shift validated emotion while, reinforcing capability. You can use the same principle now. When someone is afraid, acknowledging the emotion rather than denying it makes them far more resilient. Pair that acknowledgement with a reminder of competence, what steps can be done right now, and you recreate one of the most effective civilian survival strategies of the entire war. WWII civilians weren't superhuman. They were ordinary people who discovered extraordinary psychological tools under pressure. Their children learned calm not because the danger was small, but because the adults around them taught calm as a skill, step by step, night after night. If you're a history enthusiast or a modern survivalist, these lessons are more than anecdotes. They're techniques you can build into your daily life. Routines, tone control, cognitive redirection, narrative framing, and emotional normalization. They worked then, and they work now. If you found this guide valuable, subscribe to Warfield Survival. Share this episode with someone who appreciates real history and help keep these forgotten human survival strategies alive.